Hello.
Hi, lady. How are you?
Good. I'm really excited for these next episodes. So I'm just gonna dive in. No chit chat today, because we get requests already. I mean, this is like I think our 6th episode, and we already get requests, and so many of them revolve around the world of bodybuilding. Whether you're interested in competing or you've been a competitor or not, I think that this could be very informational and interesting
Hmm.
for you. So this is going to be a 3-part little series where today we're going to talk a little bit about bodybuilding in general. We have some questions we've compiled from people who've never been in the bodybuilding world that we're going to answer and just kind of talk about it on a more general level. Then our next episode, we're going to talk about our personal experience in bodybuilding, why we decided to do it, how things went for us, and why we decided to walk away. And then the final episode is going to be life after bodybuilding and how we've come to accept our physical bodies and how they look now and life after all that superstructure and all that. Now, to be perfectly frank, we both still have a foot in the door in the bodybuilding world because we train clients who bodybuild. So we're not totally out of it. But individually, as competitors, we are both pretty done.
Yes.
Pretty done.
Yeah.
There are a lot of good reasons to be in that world. There's a lot to learn. It's a really wonderful experience if you allow it to be.
Mhm.
But it's just we've run our course in that world. So anyway.
Exactly. And this is going to be really exciting because, like, we both made a lot of our really close friends bodybuilding and competing, but also we've all grown together and we've all continued to. Some of us have grown out of it, but we're all still friends, and some people still compete, which is great. And it's cool to see those friendships flourish and everyone come together. But also, it's like there's a lot to it. So we're just going to give you guys the nitty gritty, and we're going to do it. So
the nitty gritty. Yeah. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to tell you one of the first things for me that surprised me about bodybuilding was the community. I mean, I thought the people who wanted to be in bodybuilding were just super vain. They just cared about their physical appearance. And I'll tell you what, that was not the experience. I mean, not that that doesn't exist, but when I went backstage for my first show, this is what I'm thinking. Okay, we're all starving. We're all women. We're all literally each other's competition based on the way that we physically look. This could be very catty, which is what I kind of expected.
it's pretty even weirder if you want. I'm gonna do this weird. In a back room of a show, there is a bunch of half naked people, and there is no sexual thoughts happening. Not one. Everyone's thinking about food. Everyone's thinking about how long till I go on stage. Can I have some water? Can I do this? Can I do that? Do I have my tan? Is my suit okay? Do I have tan on my butt? Is it running down? Did I pee on my leg? Like, there's so much more happening backstage.
It's the least sexy thing ever. The
And it
least
just
sexy
stinks.
thing.
Yeah. So it's like backstage is just a whole other ballgame of just random people doing it their own thing, but no one cares about the whole fact that there is a half naked woman or man right in front of you.
Not to mention when you're that depleted, your sex drive is like 0.
Yeah.
You're
Literally.
not into sex. You're like, all I want to do is eat and sleep, and I can't really eat. So
I look phenomenal, but I have no sex drive, so sorry.
such a bummer. Yeah, that was a surprising thing too. So not only was it not sexual at all, and actually bodybuilding, I used to be much more conservative physically, and I was raised being taught about physical modesty and how important it is and da, da, da. But bodybuilding actually brought me to a different understanding of the physical body, and it like unsexualized the body. I don't know if that's the correct desexual, unsexual. The body, I feel like, is just super over sexualized in our culture and our society,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, bodybuilding, it's not that way. It's so much more. It's a work of art. This is something you've been working really hard on, and when you sit, even I had friends that came to see my first show, and at first they said they were conservative like me, and they were like a little bit uncomfortable watching like all these like half more than half naked people getting on stage. But then they said after the first few competitors, they were like, we're not looking at this body as a sexual thing. It was like, look at the muscles, look at the shape. And they started to compare. I can see why the judge likes them better than them, and da da da. So that was a really cool thing
I love
for me. What was something surprising to you that was not what you expected when you entered into the bodybuilding world?
it. I'm just gonna say tanning. Y'all better get comfortable being naked in front of a bunch of people and no one cares, and they're gonna talk to you and compliment you while you're standing there naked. That one always got me. I was like, "Thanks, thanks for the compliment." Bend over. Okay, sounds good. Sounds great.
I was the one complimenting because that's kind of what I do when I feel uncomfortable. I'm just like, you look so good. So I walk in, everybody's naked, and I'm like, you look great. And they're like, thanks. I'm like, that was weird. I shouldn't have.
So yeah, tanning is always just an experience. You never know what's gonna happen. I've competed in probably like 15, 16 shows, and tanning is always a surprise. Always. We are gonna dive in though to a few questions that we got, and this will be just a great intro for everybody who's not really sure what the bodybuilding world is or how it works or what's going on before we full blown dive into the other episodes in our series. So, Kendra, number one question, I think this one's great. Can you do it on your own, or why is it important to have a coach?
So you can absolutely do it on your own. But there's a lot to it. And you will probably be more successful if you do it with a coach, somebody who knows what they're doing. Not to mention, there's a lot of logistics surrounding the day itself, the show itself, and having somebody who's guiding you and helping you just prepare you mentally for what to expect. And you're more than likely going to be stressed to some degree
Mhm.
or anxious or nervous or whatever. So having that ease of knowing that someone's there for you, that alone, in my opinion, is worth having a coach. If you want to be real competitive, yes, you're especially if you don't know what you're doing, 100% get a coach even if you do know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like coaches have coaches
Mhm.
for a lot of reasons. If nothing else, at least get a posing coach because you can have a fantastic physique and it just flops if your routine is bad.
Mhm.
So, that would be what I'd say about having a coach. I think that you would do better to have one than not, but there's no requirement. There's no box you have to check before you can sign up.
Mhm.
What would you say to that, Lauren? Anything to add?
I would definitely have a coach because one, you are going to think to yourself, oh, I look great. I should definitely have a cheat meal. Maybe you're actually behind, or you're going to persuade yourself into certain things, or maybe you are behind, you think, so you're going to pull your food too soon and things like that. Like you can get in your head very, very quickly, especially being a coach and having a coach. I would even still question my own physique. I knew I was ready. I'd be like, oh my God, am I ready? Even like Kendra's a posing coach. She would send me her posing videos and I would critique him. She's like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I need to do that." So it's like even as a coach, you need someone to critique you and make sure you're on the right track and that you're doing everything you need to do. And also, it's just that the outside perspective because you can see yourself every day and that's great. This is why online coaches are actually better than in person. I'm going to throw this out there. If you see a client every day, seeing changes is harder. Having an online coach who's distant is actually honestly almost better. They're going to notice the changes more. Having that online coach or somebody from a distance is actually way more beneficial.
I that's an interesting perspective. I think I would agree with that, especially for the nutrition side of it. Posing can go either way. I think a posing coach in person. I recommend posing coaching to do
In
both.
person.
To have
Yeah.
someone online where you can do more frequent and then go to a group posing class at least one time before your show because it helps you get more comfortable and you can kind of get the flow. Usually they'll take you through comparisons and everything that's going to happen with you on stage so you can have a better idea of what to expect. Okay, Lauren, I have our next question. This is an important question.
I'm
How
ready.
do you remain healthy during a competition prep?
Okay. To remain healthy during a prep, number one, get labs and get them frequently. If you're competing in a long season, coming out of an off season into an in season, like you just need to make sure the inside's always happy to make sure the outside represents everything that you're doing, essentially. So making sure to stay on top of just your overall health, your hormone health, digestion, everything like that. Because you can, as long as you're doing that and you're adhering to your meal plan and you have a nutrient dense meal plan. So when I say nutrient dense, it's more than chicken and rice. So it's making sure, like, are we getting in enough veggies? Do we have enough fruit? Do we have enough fats? A variety of fats? Do we have a variety of carbs? Do we have enough fiber? Like, what are we doing with it? And making sure your body is getting as much as it can from its food. On top of making sure also too, are you supplementing with the right supplements? Is your body getting everything it needs to stay running and driving and going? And then a big factor too, I have to say, is rest, 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 rest. If you need to have a good sleep schedule, keep your stress down. Because if you're in overdrive and you try to push through and also now you're doing 2 hours of cardio, no food, your body will not respond. So just work smarter. You're putting your body in an unhealthy situation. So you need to do everything in your power to make sure you're being as healthy as possible. So like I said, labs, nutrient dense food, supplementation, rest. Those would probably be my top 4.
It's so different for everyone. Like every body is going to respond differently. I pretty much always end up with high levels of cardio. So that's something to keep in mind that you may need to push your, I mean, you will need to push yourself for sure because you're getting to an unhealthy level of body fat in order to be competitive. And especially for women, like our bodies are made to retain and hold a certain amount of body fat more than men. So you have to push it. Or there's a time where prep isn't healthy. It's just not. Like the last few weeks are just, they're not healthy, they're not sustainable. But the way to come out of it and keep your health is to plan and prepare to have a reverse out of competition prep. Reverse diet, reverse cardio, and not just like the plan, but like mentally prepare for it. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have rebounded so bad. Rebounding is basically like you come out of a show and just kind of go off the hinges. They rebound so bad that they end up physically in worse shape and condition than they were before they started preparing to compete in a bodybuilding show. So it is extremely important for you to prepare yourself mentally and also with a plan of action for a reverse diet and reverse cardio and stuff. So Lauren, will you just kind of give a brief overview of what a reverse might look like?
Yes. So a reverse diet, I always say, is more important than your entire prep. So you need to be mentally committed when you decide to prep to the beginning of prep, pre-prep, prep, reverse diet. You have to be committed to all phases. Even in your off season, you need to be committed to that. But a reverse diet in general, you have to slowly increasing calories at an amount that will basically not shock the body to just put on a ton of body fat. It's feeding the body to heal, honestly, drop the cortisol, let the body rest, recover. And you want to just have higher calories in general, just so those who are on a really long prep, let's say, low calories for a long time, their body can handle the food that's coming their way and they can handle the cardio and their body won't fight back whatsoever. I personally, Kendra does it too. We quick jump. So I will increase calories anywhere low being like 250 all the way up to like 500, but it's such nutrient dense food. Like I have fruit, I have different sources of carbs, meats, fats. I have every variety I can, make sure their body gets everything it needs. And I've found this to be the most beneficial
Mm.
mentally, like hormone wise, mental health, and just mentally handling reverse, plus just overall progress of the client. It's worked fantastic. And I think I've done that for probably 4 years now with all my clients who've prepped. 4 years, 4 or 5.
And you have to remember the food isn't going anywhere. And it's just it is a very essential part. Like your prep doesn't stop when the show is over. You will get a day, like you get that night and you go have, you've seen people come off stage and have their donut and then they go have a big dinner and they have drinks and whatever. And we have our own guidelines for that for our clients, but you get a little flexibility is something that is an option now when you're reversing more so than it was right going into the show. But don't do a bodybuilding show without planning in and scheduling in your reverse, which could take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. This one's a loaded question. How do you keep from getting serious body dysmorphia and playing the comparison game?
I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't really think it's 100% possible for a while. Like I don't even know if it's in my experience it never happened. There's something that we call prep goggles, but it's really kind of sad because I will every single time I've been like post show for several weeks and I look back at my pictures going into the show, I'm like, holy crap, I was so hard on myself. But the thing is you really are comparing yourself. I mean, that's what this is. Your body is what's being used to judge, your efforts, whatever. That's what's being judged. So naturally you're going to judge your body very, I mean, more than likely, you're going to be pretty harsh, pretty critical if you want to be competitive. Some people are just like, this is a bucket list thing and it's fun. And that might be a different story. But this is a loaded question. And I think we can give more personal insight to this on our third episode. But
Mhm.
I would not recommend bodybuilding to somebody who has recently or is currently maybe even ever dealt with an eating disorder because it can be a massive trigger because it is so food obsessed. You have to eat certain things and you cannot eat other things. So much is focused on what's going in and what's coming out energy wise. And if you have a bad relationship with food in your body already, bodybuilding's not going to fix it. Now, I will say, to contradict myself just slightly, I used to have a really negative relationship with food and I was afraid to eat it. And bodybuilding and getting into eating structured and having to eat a certain amount. And a lot of the times I was like, Lauren was my bodybuilding coach when I first met her. And I was like, this is so much food. And she's like, just trust me. Like, how many times did you have to tell me, just trust me?
Often.
I was like, this is so much food. And so it did help me because I did get super freaking lean eating. I mean, by the end, I wasn't eating a ton of food, but it helped me put on muscle and it helped me appreciate the process of building muscle. So I will argue that it can, if you're in a good spot mentally, it can teach you a lot about what you're capable of physically and help you understand by physically experiencing the process of bulking or building or whatever, and then going through a cut. Whether you want to do a show or not, that's how it works always. If you want to put on muscle, you have to eat and you have to have a slight surplus of calories for a while so your body can has the nutrient and calorie energy that it needs to build that muscle, and then you go through a cut where it's the opposite. You want to be in a deficit, and that as extreme as you want it to be, as you need it to be, depending on how much time you have and what your goals are. So it teaches you that, and it can help you. It helped me have a better relationship with eating in general, but I never had a serious eating disorder. I had a complicated relationship with food in my body, but I didn't have a serious eating disorder at any point. So that would be my word of advice. If you don't have a great relationship with, uh, yeah, I don't know. It can help. It can make it a lot worse too, though.
Mhm.
It's a hard question.
It
I'm
is.
gonna be honest. I don't feel like there's a blanket answer. It's very individual.
Because I can be honest with you, like the whole body dysmorphia, it's different to everybody. Some people are gonna look in the mirror and say, I'm not this or I'm not that, or people are gonna be scared to eat certain foods due to the change in their body, or think one meal is gonna change 6 weeks of progress, or one slip up, or this or that. It's like the dysmorphia can go either way. But like Kendra said, we're gonna dive into this more, but I'm gonna piggyback on one thing with her being her coach. I have a lot of info. Are you all ready? Um,
Okay, here we go. Bring it on. I'm ready.
With Kendra, though, what was cool, and there is a lot of coaches out there that do this, and I personally started doing it more probably in the last 3 years, 2 years. They do macro counting for preps, and it starts out loose, and then it gets a little more restrictive at the end. But like with Kendra, her having 4 kids and needing the variety in food, but also to being busy, I was like, yeah, let's count macros. Gave her guidelines for it, made sure to get nutrient dense food in, and that in general takes the stress of prep off because you still have a choice of food you can eat. You're like, do I want to have some strawberries? Do I have some blueberries? Do I want English muffin? Or do I want oats? Or do I want this? Or do I want that? But it's like you're still eating to plan, but the stress of being restricted or being like you only get chicken is gone. So if you're somebody that does struggle with food, but you are wanting to compete, find a coach that will allow you to count macros in the off season to get comfortable with food and know what your food does for you and what to eat and what's good sources of food for you, and then ease into a prep, because that relationship with food is key. Even your body, to make sure you don't have those issues. I guess as strong of as issue, like not as strong. What do I want to say? As intense of an issue in the sense of body dysmorphia, not sure how to handle food, things like that. 'Cause we all have it. I finally am over it, and I competed almost a year ago, like literally 4 weeks short of a year, and I'm finally good.
Well, you're lucky though, because you're lucky because there are people that have reached out to me specifically, like I said, about like, can you touch on this? How to love their body again after bodybuilding, who haven't been on stage for 8 years. So
Oh
it
yeah.
can mess with you. So
Hmm.
you just gotta be, you just gotta. I see it as like it's not about your worth, but it's just like anything else you create. It doesn't make you more worthy, it doesn't make you more lovable, it doesn't make you more uh, people take you more seriously just because of how you physically show up. It's just your work of art. You're literally creating something with your time, your energy, your effort. That's all it is.
Yep.
Your work of art.
You are. Bodybuilding is an art.
It is an art. Okay. Lauren, what would you say would be an appropriate amount of time to prep for a competition and what people could expect doing their first show?
So, um, prepping for a show. This can be very. I'm gonna keep it very simple because we're probably gonna dive into this more. But a typical prep can be as short as like 12 weeks, but it also can be as long as about 24 weeks. And it really just depends on your body, what show are you doing? Are you doing a national show, a local show, your life? What is your day-to-day life like? Do you have time to go do everything, or is your prep going to be a little more slow? Like, do we need the extra time? Um, and also, too, a lot of it has to deal with how much body fat do you have to lose. With somebody doing a show for the first time, my biggest piece of I guess I don't want to say piece of advice, but my biggest thing to keep in mind is your chapter one, your first show, will not look like somebody else's chapter 12 Olympia, like Olympian athlete. It just doesn't happen that way. There's so much time in between and so much work and training and cutting and building and cutting and building. You're not gonna, just because you say you're prepping doesn't mean all of a sudden you have striated shoulders. That's like the best way to put it. It doesn't mean all that's just gonna happen and click. The actual prep itself, like I said, can be even from 12 to 24 weeks, but that doesn't count your off season. What's your off season like? Is it a year? Do you need a year, 2 years to build enough muscle? You need to realize a prep is more than just, hey, I'm eating like crap, I'm gonna prep. No, that doesn't work. You're like not in a spot to do it. Your food has to be in a surplus. You have something to pull from. I always say I have one calorie bank account. My calorie bank account's already at 1,500. I don't have a lot of money to spend in the next 24 weeks. So now what?
Mhm.
So you have to think of it that way too. Make sure you're in a spot to actually have a successful prep worth your time, your money, your efforts, your energy, your emotion, everything. So keeping that in mind, it's like don't compare your chapter one to somebody's chapter 12, and just know this is a long haul sport. It is not a quick sport. What would you have to say?
Yeah. Well, I would definitely agree with that. It's muscle takes time to develop. You can't really rush that process. I mean, there are ways, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be super transparent and tell you that a lot of people take advantage of those ways of enhancing the physical process of building muscle and burning fat. Also, the more muscle you have, the leaner you can get. So your first show, my first show, I pushed super hard. I didn't get that lean. I mean,
You did.
I was lean, but I wasn't like you couldn't see like my muscles
Yep.
popping through because I just didn't have them. And you can only get so lean without the muscle mass, like Lauren was saying, right? So you've got to give yourself time and really get not just time, but an off season. We typically tell people that we're going to be prepping, like we want to take some time before we pick a show to build. Now, women especially, some they'll be like, oh, I don't want to get bulky. And I think we've broken that myth enough, but I think still people haven't made that connection where they really believe it. But it is extremely difficult for women to get bulky. Now, not extremely difficult for women to put on body fat, but if you do it right, you don't have to put on a ton of body fat to put on a good amount of muscle. Okay, you just have to recover properly. You need to have the right nutrition and the right training program for you and your body, which is another reason why having a coach is very important. Somebody who is familiar with this world and knows how to implement all of that. Um, so having a solid amount of time before you jump into a show where you are lifting weights. If you've never been into a gym before, you've never lifted heavy weights before, you probably don't want to jump right into prepping for a bodybuilding competition. Spend some time building your body first, because competition prep, which basically is just the cut, but like I said, you've got to go through the build phase if you want to have anything to, like, if you want to build the body to show to be competitive, you need to have time building it. If it's a bucket list thing, do it, because one thing the bodybuilding is 100% of the time, every time, is a course in personal development. It will teach you so much about your discipline, your mental toughness, your excuses, because the way you do something is the way you do everything. So if you don't show up for yourself in something that forces you to step outside of your comfort zone, you can know that that excuse is going to be the same excuse whenever you're asked to step out of your comfort zone ever.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a very educational experience when it comes to like getting to know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful opportunity for that. Okay, let's wrap up by sharing just briefly, if you could give a quick bit of advice, different from anything else we've said, to somebody who's considering bodybuilding, what would you say?
Oof. I'm gonna say honestly, like celebrate your wins and be very proud of what you're doing because bodybuilding is very difficult. The meal plan you have to stick to, the training, the cardio, the discipline, all of it is something that most don't want to do. And you will get judged by those because they're too scared to do it, so they're just gonna judge you. And so it's like you're doing something that people wish they could do. And so it's like, be proud. Even if you don't take first and you get 10th, be proud. You kicked ass, you did it, have fun, enjoy it, toot your horn along the way, and realize too, it's like you can always get better. And remember, it's a sport where you get judged and you may not be who the judges like that day. So you have to take it with a grain of salt, tweak,
Mm,
move on. So just have fun and enjoy
mm.
it. You're freaking already crushing it. If you're thinking about prepping and you're prepping right now and you're off season, whatever you're doing, you're already doing a great job. So high five. What about you, Mom?
I mean, I think it would be similar to what you shared, like just enjoy the process.
Mhm.
One of my favorite mantras is love life and it will love you back. But I also interchange life. So I tell my prep clients, love prep and it will love you back. Look for the good, look for the growth experiences that you're having, engage in the community. Don't be afraid to tell people that you're bodybuilding. I think that's the thing. People are like, if I don't look like a bodybuilder, I'm not allowed to say that I'm a bodybuilder. But if you're competing, if you're going to compete in a show, then you are a bodybuilder. Talk about it, be proud of yourself, have a good time, and especially on show day. I can't help but mention this as someone who helps people with their posing on stage. The more fun you have on stage, the better you will present yourself. Try and get out of your head. Practice enough so that when you show up on stage day, you feel prepared, because nothing is worse than showing up anywhere feeling unprepared. You want to make sure that you feel like I've done everything I could have done, purely to be proud of yourself, not because it's going to make you win. Because, like Lauren said, it has so much to do with who shows up that day and what the judges are looking for. You can't guarantee a win ever. So just show up and just be there, have a good time, make friends. You could possibly meet some of your best friends backstage. These people are the people who are disciplined, who have vision, who are willing to commit to things. Like, they're amazing people competing in this sport. So take the opportunity to get to know them. And yeah, just be proud of yourself. Just have a good time. Love the process and it will love you back.
Oh yeah, I love show day. I'm always like, I'm the chatty one in line. I'm like, what are you doing? Where are you from? How, are you having fun? I love your suit. Da, 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 da. And everyone's like, just standing there. I'm like, you don't want to talk.
No, I'm that way too, but there are some people who will talk. Like, I've made some friends that I'm still in touch with. Like, Lauren and I have competed nationally. We've met people from all over the country, and I'm still friends with them. We're still in touch. We're still encouraging each other online and, like,
So
still keep
cool.
that connection. Like, it's such a cool,
Mhm.
special, and unique opportunity to make connections with people who are just stellar humans. So take advantage of that opportunity. Get involved in the community for sure.
I love it. Love, love. We are super excited to share this with you guys because this has been Kendra and I have competed together,
We did the same 2 years competing, but we only did shows together 1 year.
but we're really excited to share this with you guys because we've also both transitioned into such a different spot, but we both still love and appreciate everything bodybuilding has taught us and done for us. And so, very, very excited to do this for you guys. And this will be a longer series. Expect a little bit longer episodes, but it's all good things. So,
Mhm.
you guys have any more questions for us or something you want us to touch on for sure, make sure to either send us a DM on Instagram, to the Bloom page, or to our personal pages. Either way is fine. But
Mhm.
definitely make sure to share this with somebody if they're looking to compete, and make sure they follow the series. And we are going to give you guys all the deets. So,
Absolutely. Yep. So reach out if you want to reach out. The Instagram page is the.bloom.podcast, and we're here for it. I'm very excited about this. So
here we
come
go.
back on Thursday for part 2 of our
Here we go.
bodybuilding series, and we'll see you then.
Awesome. Thanks,
Bye. Bye,
guys.
Lauren.